On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA is a dynamic podcast that brings together some of the most influential voices in the nation.
From union leaders and elected officials to law enforcement experts who explore the pressing issues shaping America.
Through thought-provoking conversations, we empower listeners to think critically about law enforcement, political policy, and the future of our society.
Available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and all Suffolk PBA social media platforms. Tune in to On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA.
Welcome to another episode of On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA. I'm CJ Hutter, the treasurer of the PBA.
I'm Tanner Brandemar, the sergeant at arms of the PBA.
And today we're excited to have Ed Romaine with us. Ed's the county executive for Suffolk County, and he's the big boss around here.
Well, I won't say big boss, but I'm someone that's trying to help all of our county workers move this county forward and do the right thing. Make sure this county is more affordable, and it's becoming less so every day, and it concerns me, and make sure we're safe. And that's one of the things that PBA plays a huge role in. We're one of the safest counties in the United States. I know my neighbor to the west says he's the safest. Well, our goal is to try to keep as much of Suffolk safe and protecting our citizens and making sure that we're not impacted by crime. And I have to tell you, Suffolk County Police, they do a great job.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you saying that. And it seems like every political poll out there right now, the two top issues are public safety and affordability.
Right.
And those are the two things you just really mentioned in your introduction here. And it's two things that you've really focused on during your tenure as county executive. And we see it with all the help you and the county legislature have given our police department with manpower and resources we need to do our jobs appropriately.
Absolutely. Without adequate manpower, how are you going to get anything done? I've been in government a long time. I've been an elected official for 40 years. And I hear people get up and say, we can do more with less. Well, I've been around a long time. And you know what you do with less? You do less with less.
Yeah, it doesn't work the way they say it does.
No, you've got to make the investment if you expect to have a return. And that's why we're investing in our police department, because they do a great job, very professional police department. The police district has existed since 1960. While we have the 5 eastern towns and they have their own police department, and when we have 5 villages at the east end and 4 in the west end that have their own police department, the big dog, so to speak, on the street is the Suffolk County Police, because they're the ones we have, about 2,400 members of the PBA.
Right about there.
And then we have, besides our patrol officers, we have our superior officers, we have our detectives, we have our detective investigators. So we have a team that is put together to make sure that we keep our citizens safe. And they are doing a great job. And they're doing a lot of community policing. So they're into all of our communities. And you go into a precinct, and we have 7 of them now, and you ask, and they'll tell you about the communities they police and the people they deal with and the civic associations that they talk with, because they're into helping us keep this county moving forward.
Right. And those community relations and all those programs that we've built up, we wouldn't be able to do that properly without the additional manpower you've signed off on hiring for us.
Right.
Because we need those boots on the ground. We need to be able to fill those seats in the sector cars first, right? Because we need people to be able to respond to those 911 calls. And with the additional manpower that you've approved the hiring of, we can properly fill in all those community relations bureau positions, all those things that help build that relationship between us and the communities we serve.
Those resources definitely matter. And it's not just your words, it's your actions. And you've definitely followed through with a lot of the things that you've said.
Yeah, I remember, prior to your election, one of the things you were promising was you were going to fill all the vacant detective positions.
Right.
And you weren't going to let those detective promotions interfere with the police officers' missions. You were going to backfill that with hiring. And you've done that.
And we're going to do more, because I think later this month, we're going to have a ceremony promoting a number of people, including a new chief of department, which we will name, and probably a new chief of detectives and a whole host of others that will be. And when I look to promote, I look to promote from within.
Right, which is great.
I look to promote
appreciate
from
that.
within because that tells people, if I work hard, do a great job, I have an opportunity to move up. And that's what you want people to do. You want them to know that if they put the effort in, they're going to be rewarded.
And they should feel like there's a reward, and they should be motivated to complete that out, to work as hard as they can to get that reward to move up.
Absolutely.
100%. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
So
It's a
all of our
motivating
promotions,
factor.
by the way, are all in-house promotions. People who have served this department loyally and faithfully and effectively for many, many years. So they're moving up. We're going to get a new chief of department, a chief of detectives. We'll have replaced the chief of detectives with someone moving up that way. And we're going to create an upwardly mobile situation where we're going to bring the most experienced, competent people who have a proven track record here in Suffolk. We're not going to go nationwide searches.
We have plenty of good candidates within the county to take over those roles, especially chief of the department, which is the most important one, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We had a wonderful chief of department with Bob Waring. Tremendous guy, but he had 39 years in.
Right.
And
But sometime you got to go.
yeah, you've got to retire sometime.
Right.
And
And
give us
he
much
has
notice.
a beautiful family at home. He wants
Yeah.
to spend time with his family. 39 years is enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly in a very high stressed position.
Right.
So we know, I think the police department's headed in the right direction. And one of the things, my job is to do the budget. I have a lot of different jobs. My most basic job is to help everyone else in the county do their job.
Right.
And that means providing resources, whether it's the police department or social services or public works, to give them the tools they need to do their job. A good leader is someone that turns around and says, okay, guys and gals, what do you need? This is what we have to do. What do you need to get the job done? And then give them the resources that they need. And of course, stay on top of them and make sure they're performing, but at least to start. Because when you don't give the resources, how can you expect results?
Right.
How much back and forth have you had with Commissioner Catalina about some of these hirings? How much say does he have in what's going on with this? Are you going back and forth a lot with him?
The last time I looked, I didn't wear a police uniform.
I figured that.
Okay. So I didn't wear a police uniform. And what I look for when I hire people, I don't care where it is. And think about my chief deputy county executive, Kevin Malloy. Very low key, but very effective and very knowledgeable. Look at Mike Martino, our communications director. Or some of the deputies that I've hired. Christine Capabianco is our deputy county executive for finance. She was the chief deputy county controller for 12 years, and then she became the chief deputy for the health department for another 9-10 years. Someone that has a lot of experience.
Right.
Sylvia Diaz. She's head of the American Red Cross for many years, and then became head of the Suffolk County Community College Foundation, but really knows what's going on, and she's for Health and Human Services. And Jennifer Youngst, who is my deputy county executive for the environment, for sewers and everything else, an attorney, great experience. I look for experience. If I can avoid it, I don't like testing people out.
Right.
I want to get someone that knows what they're doing from the get-go. So when I go to Commissioner Catalina, help me out a little bit. Now, fortunately, I have a lot of friends that in police work, and they have, whispered a couple things in my ears. But Commissioner Catalina and I are on the same page. And the people he's recommending and suggesting are the people that I would recommend.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Commissioner Catalina has been great in this role. He's kept an open line of communication with us, and that's something we talk about and preach all the time here in the office. So it's great to be able to have that because it feels like a partnership.
It does, and I've been around to see a number of commissioners. This is my 40th year in elective office.
It's a long time.
Okay, and I started as a county legislator. So I know a little bit. I've seen other people. I've seen people who one of our commissioners who will remain unnamed, his concentration was on public relations. And it was like he was having a press conference every day.
Mm-hmm.
You don't accomplish much with press conferences are important to communicate. But what people don't understand, it's not the work you do at the press conference. It's the work you do at your desk. It's your communication with your precincts, your commanders, and looking at the whole law enforcement situation. So I'm interested in people that are more focused, that don't need chase cars and follow-up cars.
Right.
Like one of our commissioners who, again, remain unnamed, but someone that's serious about the work and understands how law enforcement works and have had experiences in other law enforcement. Our current commission, as you know, had wide experience in New York City, dealing with some very difficult issues, did very well. Then came and worked as an undersheriff in the sheriff's department, had experience there, and then came as a deputy police commissioner. So he had experience. I have great faith in him. I think he's doing a great job, and I'm going to rely on his advice. When you have competent, capable people, you sit and listen. Occasionally you ask questions. And I have to tell you, every time I would ask for something, I'd get an answer that made a lot of sense.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Commissioner Catalina is a common sense guy. He's got enough sense to be innovative and try new things where it fits, but he also knows enough not to reinvent the wheel in some cases as well.
Like the street patrol that we did
Exactly.
to get the street racing off our highways.
Right, exactly.
And then we started to seize cars, and then we began to communicate, and we shut all of that down.
Right, exactly. It's effective leadership. And one of the things that I love about Commissioner Catalina, too, is he's a Suffolk County guy, born and raised out here, right? He has his roots out here. You end up taking a lot of pride in policing where you live, where you're raising your family.
This is his dream job. He is doing a very good job. And we are very lucky. As we are lucky in so many things that we have a great social service commissioner, great DPW commissioner, who was DPW commissioner many, many years ago, but had the experience and the knowledge, and everyone in the business. Great. That's the guy. And Charlie Barther. So we look for people to come in and get things done.
Right.
And know what they're doing. This is, I don't mind on-the-job training, but most of the people that I hired in top positions don't need on-job training. They have the background and experience, and that's so helpful.
And they have the right person giving them the resources as well.
That's my job.
Yes.
Right. My job is always to give the resources. I'm working right now because I have to submit my 26 budget on September 19th. I submit it to the legislature. They get it. They have hearings on it. They meet privately, they do whatever else, and then they vote on it the day after the election, which will be November 5th this year, that they'll cast a vote on the budget. And then the budget goes into effect, and that's the operating budget.
Right.
We have really three budgets in this county. We have a capital budget, which is the big items, the big ticket items, roads, buildings, bridges, things of that nature. It's a capital budget. When I came in, the one thing I noticed is that the infrastructure of this county had been neglected for so long. We have bridges falling apart. We have roads that need repair. I submitted the largest capital budget in county history for 2025. And I have to say, do you know what the vote was in the legislature?
I think it was unanimous.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
And then I did my budget for 25 and submitted to the legislature. You know what the vote was on that?
I think it was unanimous.
It was.
Yeah.
Then I've done my capital budget for 2026. Do you know what the vote was on that?
I'm assuming there's a pattern here.
Yes. It was unanimous.
Yeah.
And I point that out because I don't govern this county alone. I govern this county with 18 county legislators. So they're the legislative branch. I'm the executive branch. I deal with them. And they've been very helpful, and I want to thank all of them. And we have conservatives, Republicans, and Democrats, and to get unanimous on all things. And the same thing, the last county executive left all of the union contracts.
Yes.
lapse and come up at the same time, and we've been dealing with that. And of course, one of the biggest ones was the PBA contract, and we got that done. And what was the vote on that?
It was unanimous.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, we worried about one.
Yeah,
he was okay.
Yeah,
So,
and there was one who was ill and couldn't vote at the time too.
was Sammy not
Yes,
there?
yeah,
he's absent.
One of our legislators had a heart.
Yes.
Yeah,
And he's doing
Nothing to
well
do about
now.
that.
Yes, doing
He is.
well now.
So, but it was unanimous of the people that were there, and if he had been there, it would have been unanimous as well.
I agree.
In fairness, so they are my colleagues. I owe a lot of success to them agreeing to work with me, because when everyone's rowing in the same direction, boy, can you get things done.
Right.
Boy, can you get things done.
And that says a lot about you as, say, the manager of the county, right? The head coach of the county. If you want to make a team sport reference, I grew up an athlete. Tanner grew up an athlete. I like to make team sport references all the time. And you've been able to put a team in place that helps you with all the tasks that you're in charge of, that you have the responsibility of. You mentioned Charlie Bartha earlier. Charlie's a great guy. We see him all the time, and it's great to hear that the team that you're putting together is accomplishing the mission that you're tasked with.
They're helping me tremendously. The legislature is on board. There have been times in the past, I served in the legislature for many years, 2 separate times.
Right.
And there have been contentious times with other county executives.
Right.
One of which was my dear friend. But you know what? I'm blessed because we all have the same vision and we're all on the same page and we're moving this county forward. And we have a lot of, we're competing with the rest of the world, and you can live anywhere. And one of the things that concerns me is so many people have left this state. Fortunately, Long Island's not in that situation, but New York State has lost more population than the 49 other states.
Right.
So it tells you something. But the one part of New York State that hasn't lost population is Long Island, and in particular Suffolk. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there in the time when the tide runs against us. So we have to do everything we can. I am focused on trying to improve transportation and our infrastructure. We have some difficulties in trying to convince our state of the need for that. But it's so important. Our rail system is woefully inadequate. And after Babylon, Ronkonkoma, and Huntington, it's all diesel.
Yeah.
That's a 19th century technology. Where's the electric?
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because we just spoke about that with Rebecca Cassay a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And the Port Jeff line, how it's still a diesel line. And they've been, the residents in Port Jeff have been getting told since the 1970s that they were going to upgrade.
And they're not investing in Long Island. I can tell you now, looking at the state, some of the federal aid, and in particular the state assistance, Long Island has been being shortchanged. And whether it's the state government, let me give you a couple examples. Let's talk about President Biden. And I know you could say all different things, but one of the things that I thought he did so right is to say it's time to invest and rebuild our infrastructure.
Yes.
He put forward a $1.1 trillion infrastructure. Now, unfortunately, that goes to the states, and they decide how to get that distributed. Suffolk County got $20 million for the Suffolk County Water Authority to upgrade the water treatment facilities. Stop, period. Where's the rest of it?
Right.
Where's the rest of it?
Right.
We would like that money for sewers. We'd like that to improve our roadways.
Right.
We'd like to improve our railways, etc. For example, people complain, we're clogged with traffic. We are. But there are solutions. And why are we clogged with traffic? Well, you go elsewhere in the United States and you talk to people about, how do you get your goods into the stores? Where does the freight come in? Oh, yeah, we move about 20% by freight. Then you go to Long Island. How much you think of our freight is moved by rail?
Oh, it would be a blind guess, but I'm sure it's very low. Maybe 1%.
1%.
Wow.
Good guess,
Wow.
But had we emphasized that and talked about moving our freight by rail, we'd have less trucks on our road.
Right.
Okay, there are solutions that are doable, but they require infrastructure. Not too far away from here, we look at a highway with two names, Saginaw Coast and Sunken Meadow Parkway. South of the expressway, there are 2 lanes in either direction. Really? And it's clogged between the expressway and Southern State.
Right.
You know what's over there? Oh, that's right, Pilgrim State. The town of Islip approved 3,400 units to go in to Pilgrim State. And eventually, the guy that would like to do it would like to build 9,000. Right now, he's waiting for a sewer solution because he lacks it. But imagine that was going. What do you think would happen to that highway? It's a nightmare now.
Worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's the future going?
Right.
What about Oakdale Merge? How often have they said they were going to do something to that traffic snarl there?
Right. It's a nightmare over there. My wife used to have to drive through it every day when she was still working. Right now, we're blessed to have her home with the kids because I got young kids. But when she was working every day, she had to go through that Oakdale Merge and she was cursing it every single day.
And you know what? You say, oh, well, that's Western Suffolk, yeah? Try driving out on Sunrise Highway East.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Trade Parade because those people can't afford to live in East Hampton or Southampton. They come from Islip and Brookhaven. And that is a bumper to bumper on Sunrise Highway and County Road 39. What are we going to do about County Road 39? It's a nightmare. So, yeah, we have issues that need to be resolved. But they're not going to be resolved by people sitting on their hands and not spending the money to make improvements because they've waited too long at this point.
Right.
And we just can't wait any longer. We have to improve our infrastructure. And that's going to mean so much. And guess what we do when we do that? Well, we create jobs.
Yep.
We create a better transportation system. We keep people that are very interested in staying and continuing to live in and prosper in Suffolk County. I got to tell you, I was on ABC Radio with a friend of mine, John Casamatides.
Oh, yeah, we know John. Yep.
And he was talking to me. He said he was very concerned about the current election for mayor because he believes it's Mr. Mandami, who is a socialist, is going to win.
Right.
And one of his plans is to tax all the corporations in the city. And he said, they're all going to move to Florida. I said, John, we'll take them here in Suffolk. We're only 60 miles east of the city. We'll put together a package because I want to create jobs.
Right.
I want to create economic opportunity. I want to create money in people's pockets. I want to have prosperity because it takes a lot of money to live in Suffolk County. It's not cheap. And I want to make sure the jobs and the payrolls are there so people can live in this county and prosper.
That would be huge for the residents. A lot of our residents commute to the city. Like you said, like the LIRR not having the railroads up to par, that's a problem.
Right. And it's great to hear that there's forward thinking, too, because we see a potential major problem just 2 counties away, right, if Mandami wins New York City's mayoral race. And if you're coming up with solutions to make sure those jobs can stay within the state and
within
only,
a region
and only come a few miles east, that it lets people's families stay together.
Well, we got to prepare for the future.
Florida to follow those businesses.
We've got to prepare for the future, and we've got to make sure it's a prosperous future, and that we make the improvements. I watch other areas. You drive the country, and you say, "Wow, what happened? What happened is someone forgot to invest in Long Island, and most of our federal money flows through the state." And I'm looking at the state and saying, "Wow, Governor, we could use some help." And I understand where she's coming from. You know, obviously she hasn't done well politically in Suffolk, but now you're governor. You're not a candidate. Govern like a governor.
Right.
Think about the future of the state. And I keep on saying, we have the ability to be one of the economic engines that will drive this state forward.
Right.
And you need that. You need that at this time because a lot of people have given up on New York and moved away. They haven't left Suffolk yet, and they haven't left Long Island. But we're at that tipping point. And we're going to have to make a decision as a society which way we're going. And I am going to fight for Long Island's future. And we're having one of those fights right now. There's one of these things in the clouds there that people don't see that actually determine a lot of what happens. And that's called the Metropolitan Transportation Council. Mm-hmm. They put together the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan for 5 years that determined federal and state funding. And it includes like a 16-county region. And last year we had a press conference out here, not too far away, down at the Hospitality Center there on the Long Island Expressway. And we had all the contractors there. We had all the unions there, a lot of political officials, and said, we've got 3 million people. We should have our own transportation council because a lot of the money seems to be going to the city and not out here.
Right. Money's going out. Money's not coming in.
So this year, they put together a program for the 5-year plan that essentially zeroes out Nassau and Suffolk County. I said, you got to be kidding me. So let us just say, I went in my closet and I looked for my boxing gloves. So we're gonna duke it out. I think there's going to be an editorial on Friday, the 15th, in Newsday about this. There was something in there, Point, that article.
Yeah, the Point. Yep.
Yes, yesterday. If you go and take a look, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But we are not going to let that go. We are going to fight because we want the Oakdale merge, which was on our list. Our to-do list. We want it put back in. It canceled it right out. We want Sunken Meadow and Saginaw Coast put back in. We want electric rail put back in. They zeroed it out. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me you represent me, because you don't.
I'm glad you're willing to take those fights forward and try to get accomplished the things that your constituency and the residents of Suffolk County need to see. Because I remember in 2021 when that infrastructure bill went through, and Congressman Garbarino was a yes vote for it, and he took a lot of heat from some of the Republicans throughout the country, calling him a rhino. But he was doing what was right for his constituency.
A rhino is Republican in name only.
Yes. Yep. And he was voting for what was right for his constituency at the time. And he wasn't blinded by party lines.
It was the right thing for the nation.
Yes.
You improve the infrastructure. If you study economics,
yep.
You improve our infrastructure. You improve the productivity of this country. And we have a whole host of things. One of the things that I'm always arguing with LIPA and have for my entire 40-year career, guys, why don't you put a little money aside each year and bury lines?
Yeah.
And bury lines. In the town of Brookhaven, very forward-thinking. People don't think that. But in 1991 or 92, they passed a law that said if you build a subdivision of 5 or more, you're required to bury the lines.
That's great.
And you would think LILCO, LIPA, whatever you want to call it, it's still known as LILCO, a.k.a. LILCO, should be putting aside a small amount of money every single year.
Plan ahead.
Bury the lines. And where do you start? Well, you start on the major roads, and you also look where the lines went down during storms, and you bury those lines. And they aren't doing that. But you talk about all your infrastructure. Yep. That's the problems.
The amount of money they must spend to put the lines back up every time they come down. Every bad storm, the storms on Long Island are terrible too. And the lines come down, they destroy houses and
right. And being underground, not only does it give it that added layer of protection during storms, right, but it's also aesthetically pleasing.
Yes. And look, I used to work at Riverhead a lot of years as county clerk and as a county legislator. And I would take County Road 51, which is Meridian's Riverhead Road. Mm-hmm. They put all these huge poles up. And for less money, they could have buried all those lines.
Right.
So I am concerned about that. I am very concerned about that. And I'm also concerned because I know we need power in this county. And I think solar is something that we should not give up on. I know there are people that push for fossil fuel and everything. Okay, great. But we need all of the above.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have energy needs. I'm dealing now with Brookhaven Lab. They are one of 3 national labs that are up to get the artificial intelligence contract from the federal government to develop that for the federal government. And I'm hoping that it's Brookhaven Lab because that's jobs. And those are high-paying jobs. And we need a lot of those. So we're going to build a county that's going to be resilient.
Yeah. I'm glad you bring up solar energy too, because solar is one of those things. I have solar panels on my roof. Right. It's one of those things where you don't need to eat up a lot of space to generate more energy, right? You throw them on roofs of buildings, roofs of county buildings, right? You cover the parking lots with these solar panels.
I covered everything when I was Brookhaven Supervisor.
Exactly.
Everything I could put solar on. And in the last thing I was doing, I was working with NYSERDA, which is a state agency. And we were working with solar contractors, and we wanted to put solar. Our landfill is closing. The landfill itself is about 200 acres, but it's overall is in a 500-acre parcel. And we were going to put solar on 300 acres. And it all fell apart because LIPA said, oh, our substations can't handle that. Are you kidding me? That would have been the largest solar array in Suffolk. Right now it's over at Brookhaven Lab, but this would have been larger. And we would have been able to produce power without fossil fuel that would have been available. And that was so disappointing that people don't have the vision to plan. Look, I'm at the end. I'm old, but I've been through a lot. I've seen what happens. My grandchildren live here.
Right.
I want to make sure that they're not only safe, but that this island is prosperous. And we have a fight. And I'm saying, why would I have to fight for something that's so common sense? And, it's just like, what's going on? Now, dealing with the police is the easiest thing. And the PBA is fairly easy. You know what your jobs are. You know your job to take it, and you do a very good job. And we have, just like anywhere in this country, there's always bad guys.
Right.
I look to the PBA, I look to our police officers and the police department as the good guys, and they're protecting the rest of us. So I am always going to make sure we have more good guys than bad guys.
We appreciate that. And I can't tell you how much pride so many of our members take in being police officers here in Suffolk County, because not only are you out there doing good work, protecting the citizens, protecting your families, right? Because most of us live here too, but it's something that the county and our employer, we feel appreciated by you guys. We feel appreciated by the elected officials who are in charge. We feel like you are giving us the tools we need to do the jobs, and we feel like you'll support us in those situations where sometimes we have to take action in a split second. And you might be faced with a life or death situation, and you're going to give us that opportunity to explain why we did what we did. Right? You're not going to grandstand. You're not going to hang us out to dry in the media to try to score political points. You're going to give us the opportunity to just explain what we did. And 99% of the time, the cops are out there trying to do the right thing, and it's going to end on the right side of the issue.
We're going to stand with our police. I know there are people, and I won't mention who, but there are people that are talking for political purposes to defund the police. Mm-hmm. What a disaster. I feel very bad for those communities if those things happen. Because you defund the police, you make a terrible mistake. The first obligation of every government is public safety. That's the first. Before you do anything else, make sure that the public is safe. And police officers do exactly that.
Right, because that's the foundation you could build everything else on.
Well, what's the beatitude? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the kingdom of God.
Right.
I know you had a press conference last year. I think it was like March 7th about the bail reform.
Yes.
About what was going on with the body parts that were all cut up. And you had an interesting quote in that press conference basically saying that the state went too far in basically helping the perpetrators and they didn't go far enough to help the victims. So, and I think that's what justice is all about, helping the victims.
Justice is making sure that when people are victimized, that there's consequences. And when you take away consequences, when you start supporting laws that weaken the criminal justice system and give the perpetrators, the criminals, a leg up, you're on a very short road to disaster.
Absolutely. And we see it all the time. There are real life scenarios where we'll arrest somebody at 4:00 in the afternoon and they're out free, back on the street by 6 p.m. before dinner time. But our cops are still stuck in the precinct processing the arrest. Our cops are stuck doing paperwork longer than the bad guys actually even locked up.
Absolutely. And the one case that I noticed was a case where someone had taken a person and chopped it up.
Yeah.
And you found all the limbs around.
Yep.
We couldn't hold. We arrested someone, but we couldn't hold them on bail.
Isn't that insane?
That's crazy.
What? You got to be kidding me. So that and a whole host of other things. For example, this is one of the few states that has a list of drugs that if you stop someone that you think is drugged impaired, you can't arrest them unless you can specify which drug.
Right.
And that drug has to be on that list.
Right.
Well, that's incredible. Now, I'm with the DA constantly, and I'm going to fight his fight, and I am going to take that to Albany and the state, because some of these people are the state legislators from some of the areas of the state seem to favor the criminals and not the victims.
It's insane. So I'm glad to hear that you plan on going up to Albany and fighting this fight.
I plan to stand with Ray Tierney, our district attorney, and fight this fight to make sure that we have justice, that there's fairness, the law is fair, but at the end of the day, there has to be justice and there has to be consequences for those who break the law and hurt others. Really?
We had Lou Viscusi, the president of the Correction Officers Association, on recently, and he brought up the fact that with all the bail reform, the people that commit crimes are missing the opportunity to actually go through a rehabilitation process and an ability to re-enter society in a better, more productive manner.
Right, because they have a lot of training programs within the jails, right?
Yes.
These are corrective facilities. They're correction officers.
Right. We have an enlightened sheriff who has worked very hard to come up with programs so people who get caught up and go to jail can get all the types of help, education, training, counseling that they need to come out of there as better people and productive members of society. So the sheriff has done a very good job. We're dealing with other issues in the jail right now. That's a jail. What's a jail? A jail is a place where you get sentenced to a year or less. A prison is upstate because that's where most of the state prisons are. And that's when you have a sentence of more than a year. So we have to send prisoners up there. Unfortunately, that's not happening these days because the governor fired 2,000 correction officers and shut some upstate jails. So we have about 150 state-ready prisoners that we have to take care of. That really is the responsibility of state government.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up because that's one of the biggest issues facing the corrections officers right now. And I know you're helping them in trying to address this issue the best you can. You just settled a contract with them. Right. But our Suffolk County corrections officers are housing so many extra prisoners that should be upstate that it's mandating overtime for them. And it's really affecting their quality of lives.
Right, because you have to mandate it to make sure it's covered.
Right.
And we've had trouble recruiting and retaining correction officers where they have a very good contract now, which they will tell you is very happy.
Yep.
And they can start around $60,000. And we would encourage everyone. Think about it. It's one of the toughest jobs because you're locked in.
Right.
With some of the most unpleasant people, and you have to spend the day with them and put up with them. And these are people that are not always respectful or responsive to authority.
Right.
So it's a difficult job.
I hope people don't overlook the importance of that investment too. Investing in the workers that are there.
Yes.
You're getting better quality workers when you do that, more experience of staying on the job, and you're getting workers that want to be there more often than not.
Right.
And they know what they're doing. So you have less problems and you're spending less money to fix different problems that might occur with less experience and guys that are miserable at work.
Well, now we have to spend a lot of money for these state-ready prisoners that we now have to feed, provide medicine for, and correction officers to guard.
Right.
So that's a budgetary problem. I mean, the state is giving us $100 per prisoner. Our cost is somewhere between $250 and $300 a day. So it's the taxpayers of this county are covered for the state of New York.
Right. Yeah, we're supplementing them right now because they don't have the manpower to house the amount of prisoners that should be up there.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
But again, I want to thank the PBA for the great job they do for the residents of Suffolk County. We depend on you. And I know the police department has experienced people that know what they're doing and in charge of the department. In fact, we just got very good news from the Justice Department.
Yes.
We were under consent orders from the Justice Department, I think from 2008.
It was around that time period.
Yeah.
I think there was an incident in 2008, and I think the consent decree came out. Yes.
In Patchogue.
Yeah, so that
November.
incident was in 2008. Yes.
I was in the legislature. I'm very familiar with that story. But the Justice Department has monitored and set all these guidelines and guideposts of where we should be and what we should be doing. And finally, they came to the conclusion we're just almost completely in compliance with everything they've asked us to do. So that just came out this week. I think that's great.
Yep. It's another great story of our guys doing what the county and what the citizens want from the police department, right? Because I think the words they used were substantial compliance.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is a great way to put it. Not only are we just complying with it, we're meeting all minimum standards, we're in substantial compliance. We're out there taking pride in what we're supposed to be doing, and we're accomplishing the mission.
Yeah. And I think that was a good hallmark for us. And like wherever, every day I go to work, I was thinking, how can I deliver more? How can I do more? Mm-hmm. And I know our police department as a whole is always thinking. So they have all different types of task force out there dealing with all different types of problems. And they are doing a very good job. And I've got to think very carefully if I'm a criminal. I just know they had a big case. In fact, some of our detectives worked on it, where people would go to car dealerships, put some money down, and then drive away with the car and never come back.
Oh, jeez.
And the district attorney worked very closely with our detectives and police, and we went after these guys, and we got just about all of them, and we got the cars.
Oh, that's
so
great.
It's like, and you think about this, when you're that effective, criminals have to think twice.
100%.
Is Suffolk County the right place for me to commit my crime? Or can I do it in another? Can I go, God forbid, to the Bronx or something, or Brooklyn, where maybe they're not they don't have as much police. They don't follow through. We're going to follow through. We're going to go after all the bad guys. And the guys that are going to do it, the guys and gals that are going to do that for us, are the Suffolk County Police Department.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up because, we touched on a little bit about Commissioner Catalina and his willingness to adjust and adapt to whatever the conditions are at the time, right? We already mentioned the Street Takeover Task Force, right? He's already enhanced the Human Trafficking Unit, right? Sergeant Jimmy Johnson's over there now. He's one of our prior guests. So he's looking at ways to make the adjustments from within to address the new risk factors, the new threats that are out there to our citizens.
Because every day someone thinks they're smarter than the police department. Some of these criminals will try to think of every which way for them to advance themselves at the expense of everyone else. They're not thinking about society. They're not thinking about their neighbors. They're very self-centered on themselves and very harmful and destructive to society as a whole, particularly when they break our laws and they don't think there should be any consequences for doing that.
Right. And that goes back, a lot of it, to the bail reforms. And, like you had talked about going up to Albany with District Attorney Ray Tierney. We've done that in the past too. Like one of the things I'm proud of with our union is it's not just our members out there fighting crime on the streets, but our union, we go up to Albany and we lobby for law changes that are going to make it easier for our members to effectively do their job.
And one of the changes that you lobbied for, which partially successful, and we have a little bit more ways to go, is the discovery laws.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, because if you don't jump through all the hoops and you don't turn over everything within a certain period of time, they actually dismiss cases. The guy may be as guilty as sin. Everyone knows it. He knows it, but he gets the case dismissed.
Right.
That is wrong.
Right.
That is wrong.
It created this possibility of these bad guys getting released just based on technicalities, not because the evidence isn't working against them, not because they're innocent. Technicalities. And we just saw an example, a real life example right here in Suffolk County where police officer Brendan Gallagher was hit by a speeding motorist. And we went to a court case and based on
and Brendan was seriously injured.
Seriously injured. Yeah. So within very close to losing his life.
Right.
And we were in court when the bad guy was there. And based on technicalities involved with the discovery law, he was released on his own recognizance involved with that case. He's still locked up because he has other charges, right? This was a bad guy who has other weapons charges involved with him. But based on Brennan's case alone, he's technically released on that because of these discovery
Which
issues.
is incredible. That's why discovery laws need reform. Bail needs reform. I just, you want to have the tools to stop the criminals and to protect the public. And you guys have a very frustrating job because sometimes the laws that come down from Albany don't allow you to do what you need to do to protect the public.
Again, go too far to help the perpetrators.
Right.
Absolutely. I just don't understand it. And I'm with our district attorney. And I think most of the district attorneys in the state of New York, in imposing those changes that weakened our discovery laws, weakened our bail laws, and made them more favorable to the criminal and not considered the victim.
Well, it's great to hear that, you're up there fighting for the residents of Suffolk County, up in Albany too, looking to make all the changes necessary to keep everybody safe. You've had an extensive career in public service, going back to even as far back as teaching in the 60s, right? Because teachers are a vital service to the community and then eventually leaving teaching to become an elected official. So, your vast experience has to give you a lot of knowledge on how to deal with people and get all these missions accomplished.
Be patient.
Yeah.
That's the one lesson you learn, to be patient. And the second lesson you learn, be kind. Treat people with kindness. Treat people, you don't know what's behind the life stories of the people you come in. And some people have had more difficulties than they care to discuss. Always be kind. Always be patient. But also make sure that people understand where you're coming from so there's no confusion. And you don't have to pound on the table.
Right.
But what you have to do is put forward a rationale for what you want done and why you want it done and how it's going to benefit people. And if people feel that you are committed to doing good and it's not self-serving, you win a lot of people over. I have a lot of friends and colleagues that I've grown up with as I've gone through my career. And we were just talking about one of my very good friends who I think has done a remarkable job, although our last county executive didn't think so. And that was the Brookhaven Supervisor, Rich Schaefer.
Great guy.
Yes.
Very good guy that's in public service for the right reasons. We may not always agree with all of the decisions he makes, but he's in public service for the right reasons. And that's important because you get some people who think it's all about them. It's not. It's about serving the public and doing the right things.
Right. And like, you said, you're not always going to agree on everything, right? I mean, you've been in the Republican Party for a long time. You'll have certain values that maybe Rich doesn't have as far as the Democratic Party goes, but
You'd be surprised.
yeah, but a lot of it does align. A lot of it does align.
It does.
And you could see that as soon as you keep those open lines of communication going. And one of the things I love about Rich when he came on our show, he compared it to Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. How when Reagan was president, they might debate issues. It might sound like they're at each other's throats, but really they were just having conversation and debate, and they would go have a beer together right afterwards.
Absolutely. And Rich and I were supervisors together. He's still the supervisor of Babylon. He cares about Babylon. And I'm going to work with him and all the other supervisors, because at the local level, it's much less about party affiliation and much more about the community and your concern for the community and your willing to reach across party lines to get things done. I am so happy with our current legislator just because there's a mix of them.
Right.
And some of the personalities. We won't go into them. But suffice it to say, on the key issues facing this county, they have been giving me unanimous votes on things that are critical to the future of this county. So my hat's off to them. My hat's off to them.
Yeah, it's a great team there right now. I know as police officers, we're very confident in the elected officials locally. And as a Suffolk County resident, I am very happy with the direction our county is moving in and how a lot of the stuff we're doing today is also laying the groundwork for improvements in the future.
It's critical. It's all about the future. It's all about the future. And I want to make sure we have a future that's bright, that's prosperous, where people can work, afford to live here, have a house, raise their family, and enjoy what God has given us.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. I think it's a great way to close it out. And we appreciate you coming on and having this talk with us.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Always a
Yeah.
pleasure
God bless.
seeing you.